Hey everybody, welcome back to Author Eke. Today I have Scott Grace. He's written a book, Mindful Masculinity.
Mindful Masculinity.
Masculinity. I got that. I know what that is. So hey, talk to us about that.
Well, sure. I'm a student and a fascinated human being around the subject of masculinity, what it is, what it isn't, how our culture has taught us some lies, and how to separate the bullshit from the authentic energy that's here to serve the world and make the world a better place. And
Excellent.
I did my first men's workshop in the 80s, and in the 90s, I was part of this organization called the New Warrior. And the New Warrior had these initiation weekends. Are you familiar with it, Travis?
No, I never heard of that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I was in the Army. I didn't hear nothing but people yelling at me.
Oh, well, if you would have came to the New Warrior, you would have heard that as well.
Excellent.
The idea was to harness the courage of a warrior, but to direct that courage towards the battlefield inside, the battlefield between, let's say, your lower nature and why you're on earth, a higher purpose.
Okay.
To discover that and to release the fears by walking through them one at a time, that will help you be a more helpful person on the planet.
Okay. So that's a long time to be involved in that. I mean, you've been a man longer than that. So what got
Much.
you kind of interested? Was it something you saw from the generations or something you saw perceived? How did you go ahead and say, you know what, I need to really start looking at this from, my perspective?
I had, let's say, an absent father who had his own wounds and trauma, World War II, and he was a doctor. He always thought he was right, and he didn't know how to take the medical hat off when he got home to his kids and his wife. So I grew up thinking that masculinity meant being a righteous egomaniac. And so I didn't want to have anything to do with masculinity. I became a mama's boy. I was really nice all the time, and I was afraid of my power, and I was just afraid of being a man. So in my early adulthood, I became fascinated with, okay, what have I disowned? What have I missed? It's not a black and white issue.
Right.
There's some good things about being a man, and I threw the baby out with the bathwater. So I want to get back in the tub and explore what's good. What's good about being a man? And I started that exploration.
Excellent. So what's your background?
What's my background? Jewish, nice atheist parents, Brooklyn, New York. I learned to survive the streets of Brooklyn with a very razor-sharp sense of humor. I became like a wordsmith, clever as hell. I got into trouble in school. I became interested in psychedelic drugs and what is there going on in the universe besides monotonous, boring, day-to-day stuff. And that led me to spirituality and Native American traditions and eventually men's work. I became a recording artist, 9 CDs. I've written 4 books, and I'm a life coach. And I wake up in the morning and say, God, what can I do for you? Use me.
Right. Interesting. So what kind of, was it music? I mean, were you like, what kind of music was it? Recording artist?
Why answer that question with words? So
Go for it. You'll be the first singer on Author Eke, by the way. So go for it.
People tell me that all the time. Yeah, I just started writing songs about what I was going through, because I was going through like a caterpillar to a cocoon to a butterfly, and I had never heard songs about that process before, so I started writing them. So I'll give you a little taste. I was
Yeah, go for it.
sold.
Yeah.
I was sold a storyline. Life is rough, so get tough. Go out and take what is mine. Stay in control. Get the upper hand. Show no fear, cry no tears. Learn to be Superman. Now that story is burning, going up in smoke. Can't live it any longer 'cause I'm being choked in the pitch black night. I'm looking for my heart. The light may be coming, but I'm still in the dark. Moving out the old, bringing in the new, and walking through the fire between the two. Moving out the old, bringing in the new, and walking through the fire between the two. Now that's just the first verse of a whole song, but it just gives you a taste. I wrote about my journey. Music was my therapy.
Okay.
Music was my way out of the madness.
Right.
And after The New Warrior, I started making CDs, going into the recording studio, just jumping in with both feet and getting professional and having certain songs get radio play. I got a little taste of what people call fame, the trappings and the glory.
Excellent. That's I don't see a can next to you. I throw $1 at you. So that was good.
I love it.
I like to help starving artists.
I am not starving. I eat 4 meals a day.
Excellent. So tell us about the book.
Sure. So Mindful Masculinity. Let's be our own Vanna White. I'll show you what it looks like. That's not me,
please.
by the way. That is not me. So
Excellent.
It was born out of a conversation that I was having with this man who had hired me during COVID to do a little computer data entry and answering the phone. I just needed some extra money. And his company was called Man Cave America. It's a Bay Area tech company. And we became friends. And he was interested in all things masculinity and manhood. And he picked up one of my previous books and said, "Wow, Scott, you're right. Why didn't you tell me I want you to write some essays." And he gave me topics, and he paid me by the hour just to write about these topics. And the topics had to do with masculinity and discipline, rules, and courage, and what it means to be a man. And every time I would write an essay, he would say, "Great," and he'd give me another topic. Neither one of us knew that it was going to be a book at that time. So
he was a man.
He is a man.
This was a man that asked you what masculinity was.
Yeah. Would you find that emasculating? Like just to even open up the conversation?
I find that odd.
Yeah.
I would find that odd. I don't know. I never thought about it. Actually.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. So continue. So you wrote some essays.
Yeah, and the book began to write itself. Basically, I went away from Henry and began to study things and realized that I had a unique take on it. And I say half the book is my memoir. It's like a masculinity memoir, and I tell everything about all my foibles and mistakes and being bullied in the schoolyard and becoming a jock to overcompensate for a sense of inadequacy that I later discovered was running my life. So the book was very therapeutic for me to write. And if I had to give an elevator speech, a nutshell version of it, it's about modern man and how, like, this, I'm going to fix things and I'm going to fight on the battlefield. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to serve my country. All of these things that used to define manhood, well, they're not as relevant for many men. Many men are growing up. There's no wars to fight. They can't fix a damn thing. Where do they get their meaning? And where do they get a sense of purpose and aliveness and a sense of service? And that's...
do you think there's two types of males? You know, we always hear the alpha male and the beta male. Do you think that is actually exists? Is there such a thing?
Travis, I think there's as many archetypes for men these days
Yeah,
as there are
yeah.
TV channels. And that's what makes it so confusing and exciting, because you have to find your own way now. There's not just one or two ways.
And people
And in
change
it,
over time, right? What you
people
like,
change, and
like you were.
go ahead. I
No, go
was,
ahead. No, go ahead. Go
yeah. We as a species are evolving very quickly right now, and
Yeah,
there's a nervous system response to life that isn't always appropriate. In other words, adrenaline, fight or flight. Uh, I better run, or I better fight and attack and kill. And these are old archetypes, and they're not necessarily appropriate for 24/7 living. So a lot of people are going to yoga and meditation and starting to channel the aggression that served us so well in previous decades into more inner work, contemplation, meditation. Uh, and that's the this book in a sense is like a roadmap for men who have not yet found their way and want some inspiration from someone who has. It's like
right,
I'm
right.
mentoring. And that's a great
No,
word
no,
because
no. It's perfect. I think
yeah,
some, um, it doesn't hurt to learn other things that you might be able to make yourself a better person, to be able to, you know, get along different situations with different people. I think that's critical. And I think everybody is evolving, uh, every conversation, every predicament they get in, life lessons. I grew up, totally different. But I think, that we just have to, sometimes men just need to be men, whatever that is. A man, what do you have to do to, do you have to be able to fix a car? Do you have to be able to play an instrument? Do you have to be able to whatever? I think it's whatever that makes you happy. It makes you be able
I
to
love it. Yeah.
exist and survive.
Look at the language you just used, because it points to what the changes are happening. We used to have a list, like a list of have tos. Being a man means this, that. And in a sense, our culture has brought us to the point where we have taken all the have tos, thrown them in the fireplace, and that can be very scary, to really have choice, to not have to follow a bunch of have tos. So a man can fix cars. A man can go to ballet. Like a man could be a dentist, a lawyer. He could stay at home for 6 months and just clean the slate and come out a new person. There's so many choices, and again, that's exciting, and it's also scary.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. So do you think uh, what a man thinks of himself is based on, of course, that's be his background, but having a father in his life, or having a father in his life that's not there, or a father in life that's too a helicopter, or,
Mm,
eventually, they have to figure out exactly what they are, and how
mhm.
are they going to survive?
Well, our fathers have all made mistakes and
Oh yeah.
have come into a culture that has said, you got to go out and earn a living, and the children need time with their father. And because of economics and other things, the father doesn't have time to do it all. So there's an inherent wounding in the culture. It's like we just can't do it all. We can't be Superman. A woman can't be Superwoman. And yet our culture, our lifestyle, our economy is demanding so much of people. And so there's always going to
Uh,
be wounding with the best of intentions. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. And yes, that is the beginning of a boy's journey into his adulthood, is his relationship with his father. And it's going to have a major effect on him.
oh yeah, I agree. Now, do you think it matters? Like, are you in the Bay Area? I take it.
Now I'm in Mexico.
Mexico?
Yeah.
Man, man, that's really taking the leap. That's awesome. So I'm wondering, do you feel that, I know I travel quite a bit, or I used to travel quite a bit. And I can, based on where I was at, the level of masculinity in people is different in men. And I think
Yes.
what they do, right? I come from a military family. My dad wasn't a hard ass, always a great man. My mom was a fantastic woman, World War II. My dad was Vietnam, Korea, but I went in the military, right? But
I read up on you,
I
Travis.
look at myself different than other people, right? Or
In
how my relatability to people
in
is
what way
maybe different. I don't,
do you think you're different?
I don't think I'm different. I'm not. I think I'm pretty steady state, but I think I can. Different places in the United States have, I think, different masculinity, and I think it depends. And I don't think it depends on their family. I think it depends on their environment or
Their
what they've
environment.
gotten into. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And
Yes, Texas
everybody
and
changes.
California are very different breed,
Oh,
very different types
I
of
used to live in both of them.
masculinity.
Yeah, I used
Ah,
to go out there all the time, and I used to live there, both of them.
uh-huh.
Lived in Spain, New York. I've been around. Um, but you know what? To each their own. To me, I don't care. As long as you're not an a-hole, and you can take care of yourself and your family if you have a family. I don't care.
Mhm.
Don't matter to
Mhm.
me. So what do you when somebody reads? Do you read the book like a novel, or are those short stories? I can jump to somewhere in the book and say, I want to read about this.
50 chapters. You can look at the table of contents and go wherever you want. It doesn't build
Okay.
like a novel. And they're,
Uh-huh.
in a sense, they're essays with some personal life stories and some poetry. And if you listen to the book on Audible, you get to hear me singing. Almost every chapter has a song, so it's quite an experience.
So when you were writing it, did you discover anything about yourself that you
Yes,
didn't realize or didn't like? I'm going to write about it, and all of a sudden you start writing, I'm going, oh my God.
yes, absolutely, Travis. I feel like the book was my healer. It took me about a year to write, and I was having all kinds of insights, and I'll give you one of them. So there's a chapter
Okay.
called How I Got My Balls Back. And in the chapter, I explain that I was in a relationship for 10 years with a woman who was my goddess. She was the ideal physically and in every which way. And I did something I wouldn't recommend to young men. I looked up to her. In other words, we weren't on equal ground. And when we had a child, I was lost in a sense. And I
Right.
really was like trying to get her approval. I changed my wardrobe because she didn't like certain clothes. And I went on a quest to win her. I didn't feel like I had her. I had to win her. And
Uh-huh.
that was such a loss of my balls, my sense of self, my self-esteem.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
inevitably she lost her attraction to me. And I took it really hard, especially since we had a child. And when she broke up with me, I was a mess. Like I'm a single parent, and what's wrong with me? And how come I wasn't good enough? And will I ever be good enough to be loved? And these very familiar themes, these sad songs are written about. And every man knows what it feels like to feel inadequate. And I went through it, dark night of the soul. And when I wrote the book, the story I had been telling myself every day, which is I'm not enough, began to unravel. And I realized that I had certain unique gifts that came from losing my balls and getting them back and feeling good enough again. That was a story that any man can identify with and relate to.
So did you send her a copy of the chapter?
See, she read it and she mentioned that chapter. She said, I will never ask you to change your wardrobe again.
It
uh
gets costly more ways
yeah,
than one.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I just have a funny story to tell about the balls thing. I uh, About 20 years ago, I had enough of the verbal abuse, the constant criticism coming from my mother. And I just said enough. And we didn't talk to each other for 2 years. And during that time, I did a lot of work on myself, and I eventually reached out to her, and we have a great relationship now. She's 96. But I wrote a song in which the bridge of the song, the middle of the song, um, goes like, the time has come to take a stand and take my gonads from your hands. This was it was I was singing to my mother. The song is called Never Again, and it was like an anthem of empowerment. Look, if you are not going to treat me with respect, you don't belong in my life, even if you're my mother.
Right.
And so
Right.
when we reconciled, I sent her the CD with that song, and I told her that song was inspired by you. And she, in her beautiful New York Jewish accent, said, I like the song, Scott, but there's one thing that I disagree with. I never had your balls in my hands.
That's a metaphor.
She knew that.
So what other books have you written? And what were they about?
I have a book called Teach Me How to Love, which is it's a memoir, and it's about my relationships and my music career and learning to not be afraid of love. That's the theme of that. And then there was the second book is called The Places Your Ego Will Go. And it's a poetry book, as if I was Dr. Seuss, but rhyming. Let me give you a taste. Your ego will travel with you on this earth and be your companion for worser or worse. It pretends it's your friend, your bestest amigo, and it pours on the guilt that's the beverage of ego. It's there to protect you, to help you feel strong. So it has to remind you, you're doing it wrong. You're weak and you're lazy and you don't have a clue. That's your drill sergeant ego trying to motivate you. Your ego wants you to be all you can be. So it gives you these pep talks all day and for free. I'd like to go on with your permission. Travis, another 2 minutes of rhyming.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the places you'll go and the guilt trips you'll travel. As the ego plays judge and bangs down on its gavel. But you always can get some relief from your shame by projecting it onto the others you'll blame. For that is the ego at its beastiest best. Beastiest best. It nurses its grievances close to its chest. Republicans, liberals, your parents, your ex. The world is just teeming with folks to correct. If only those fools could conform to your ways, you could get on with life without further delays. The ego loves finding new gripes to complain about, turns molehills to mountains of yikes to feel pain about. It's a 5-minute poem. I'll stop there.
I think so the Dr. Seuss book, All the Places I'll Go.
It's like a children's book with adult themes.
All right.
And I wish it would sell more. I wish people would get it. I'm not much of a marketing person, and I do these podcasts. They're a lot of fun. Yeah, it's key. Books don't sell themselves anymore.
Nope. You got to market.
I know you know that, Travis.
Book signings and everything.
Yeah.
That's one thing we talk about, on the podcast regularly is writing is a third of the book, right? And
yes,
a bigger portion of that other 2/3 is the marketing aspects, which is never finished. You got to continually do it. So are you thinking about another book, or is this, sounds like you
what I am I'm taking a break from writing. I have other creative pursuits, things I'm doing with music, a life coaching practice, working one-on-one with people is probably my favorite thing to do. But what I do is I just journal, in a sense, on Facebook. And A couple
Okay.
of years later, I'll look at my posts and I'll say, wow, there's a book in there somewhere. I see
Uh,
a theme. And then I'll be like, oh, let's pull these things together and see what comes out.
that's a poem. almost,
It's a fun
almost
way to
a
do it
almost a
because,
poem.
writing a book, it can be very intimidating, but just,
Uh,
expressing yourself each day on social media and then forget about a book, just put your heart into the,
right.
and then,
Yeah.
a couple years go by, take a look. A theme has developed.
Yeah. So let's see the cover again.
This is where I get to be Vanna White, huh?
Yep. Excellent. And where can you get it? I'm assuming Amazon and things like that.
Amazon, and you can also go to Amazon.
Okay. Excellent. And it's hardcover, softcover, Audible, ebook.
Uh, all of the above, except there's nothing hardcover about it.
Okay. It's a soft inner shell. It's a soft outside, but a tough masculine inside.
Exactly. Open its pages and your biceps will grow.
There you go. We'll have to get that
Eh,
for a few people I know.
yeah, I think if you can stomach the Audible, that's the best deal because you get over 3 hours of my music, poetry, and the book.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a mix. It's a literary
it's
mix. It's an
it's
artistic
yeah,
mix.
it's my insides, and I pour them out in such a way that if I would die tomorrow, I feel like I've expressed what I'm here to express.
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Scott, I have to say, this is one of the most interesting podcasts that I've done.
Poetry, music,
I'll give you singing, poetry, book. No, I haven't
and the
had
word
that. So
masculinity
it's going to be a tough one.
mispronounced. The word masculinity
I know.
splendidly
I'll try to
mispronounced
read
by
it off your
Travis.
shirt. I'll
You
try to
could have
read your
read
shirt.
my
And
shirt.
yeah, but it's kind of blurry for me right now, so I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
But
All right.
excellent. No, it's
All
great.
right.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on all your endeavors. I don't,
Thank
maybe
you.
too many for me to name, but best of luck on the book. And folks, go out there, check his book out. It's it's a perfect time to get one for somebody.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And thanks for having
Thanks,
me,
Scott.
Travis. Anytime you want, we
Yes,
can
sir.
discuss things
Yes, sir.
in
Thank you.
music and poetry. I love it.
Excellent.
All right.